Hello everybody, welcome next Storware webinar. Let's wait just a few minutes and we'll start. I'm glad to see you, all of you. Hope you will enjoy next 30 minutes, maximum 40 minutes, to have a journey with us about the disaster recovery capabilities and how to do it in 5 simple steps. Before that, like I said, just give me a sign that you hear me well, that the quality of the voice and the video is working properly, and I believe in a minute, maximum 2, we will start. So the key goal about the agenda, this is what I said. When I thought is that we are behind a really difficult year, and I'm not only talking about the natural disasters, but everything was going on related to the COVID itself, and how our work changed. But we need to find a way and ask the questions. When I promote this webinar, I said, what if? So we always need to have a plan A, plan B, or even plan C. And we don't like to think that something will go in a bad, or we don't like the best scenarios. So my agenda is created that we need to first of all remind what is the disaster recovery and disaster recovery plan, why we should use it in a daily basis, and how we should implement this disaster recovery plan in 5 simple steps, or what we should be aware of when we will do or update our existing DRPs. What else? Of course, I would like to remind that based on the DRPs, you can use the wide range of the different platforms from the backup and recovery that helps you to achieve the goals in case of data loss. Of course, because we are Storware, we should be aware how you can use one of our products, in this scenario vProtect, to help you to achieve these goals. Then I will show the live demo, what set of the features we have to help you to achieve it. And I prepared some useful links when I build the presentation, what I've been looking for in a Google itself. Okay, first of all, we need to understand, and let's start with a few statistics. 90% of business without a disaster recovery plan will fall after a disaster. It's not a good news. It means that we need to be open-minded. We need to be aware and ask the question, what if this real disaster will happen to my data center, to my primary site, to my disaster recovery site? Do I have procedures, and do I have assurance that this data will be restored in a proper way? What else? Did I already classify this data? There's many questions that we need to answer later on during this webinar. Another statistics, on average, business lose over $100,000 per ransomware incident due to the downtime and recovery costs. Because of the ransomware, we more thinking about not only what happens if we have some natural disasters like earthquake or the flood, but what if in a daily basis we have an attack for thousands of the 10,000s of the different laptops or the desktops based on the ransomware? Do we have procedures to coming back? And do we have the answers on it? So what I noticed in the last years, when I've seen many of the disaster recovery plans templates, there's also additional information regarding the ransomware. And in the last year even, I noticed that there is a COVID part that should be also put into the disaster recovery document, like who is responsible, how many people can be doing the restoration, etc. We need to be aware and updated. So if you already built some disaster recovery plans on your companies, just think about what we could change to significant achieve the goals and help to do it in a proper way in case of data loss. This statistic is related to the small businesses, and this is quite scary part, because 46% of small businesses have never tested their BDR plans. It means that they don't have any clue if they can recover in case of data loss. So this is actually one of the most important part that always saying if you invest into the proper backup and recovery platforms, always think about recovery. The second part, backup is important, but the recovery is a crucial, is the most significant part of investment in this area. So I put some questions that we can start to think about. If something bad happens, how long it will take to recover? Who will be responsible for this recovery? How it will affect my business in the future? You know, disaster recovery is a part of the business continuity. And if you're talking about the business continuity, we're talking about, you know, how the company should survive in case of data loss. How much time we can spend with on the outage, how much time our services, our CRM or our systems cannot work, and how much money we'll lose during this outage. So this is a question that we need to understand, talking with the management, talking with the CEOs, CFOs, etc. When we will fight for the budget, I will tell you later on how to do it. How to resume operation after disaster. So it's not only about the case how to properly restart, but how we can come back to the normal cases. We should fully procedure it and build a plan based on it. Go on. So let's start with the explanation. There's tons of the different explanation what is actually the disaster recovery. I find it one of which I like and, you know, fully support. Disaster recovery is a form of security planning, allows the business to maintain and recover end systems following a disaster. And keep in mind, disaster recovery is a part of something bigger. And I put here, business continuity is a macro perspective of the disaster recovery plan. And the plan is to, you know, to-do list, what we need to do step by step in case we'll have a real disaster or real data center data loss. So DR is the way and the part of the business continuity, and DRP, disaster recovery plan, is a set of rules and description how we should work in case of disaster happens. I also like these sentences because in most organizations, disaster recovery planning is the quintessential complex, unfamiliar task. And, you know, many times when I design the disaster recovery plans, when I spoke with the enterprise customers or even mid-sized or small businesses, they're always saying, okay, it should be a little bit work better. We don't have enough time to play with you know, with these rules. We don't have time to properly prepare ourselves for the disaster recovery. So keep in mind, always please find a time to do a periodic disaster recovery test. Without this proper time, you will fail, because every platform that you will choose or every procedure that you think it's working without, you know, a real-time scenario, without a testing, can fail, and you can try to do your best, but in the end you will be not able to recover those data. So I know that, and I also like the sentence, disaster happens so rarely that recovery operations are opposite of routine. Yeah, of course, this is like our health. You know, I feel good, and I believe I can live forever, especially when I'm 20, 25. If I'm going older, something can happen, some injuries, etc. And you starting to ask the question, okay, maybe I'm not immortal, maybe your data center is not immortal, maybe your data are not immortal. So we need to over and over again, like in a yearly basis, at least, ask this question, see what do we have a plan, and do we have the DRP working properly, and how our software, backup software, help us to achieve these goals. And I believe you are familiar with this screen, the Dilbert one, how in most cases our disasters recovery plans looks like. I got my scenarios that once we had some attack and we need to struggle with some data recovery. We had a plan B, like other side, and we noticed that something goes wrong on the storage layer, and even the backup system that we used in the past thought that everything goes in the right direction, but we couldn't be able to recover the data because of the lower hardware problems. So we had a plan C, and this plan C helped us to achieve the restoration. So always remember that you should not only have a plan B, but always a plan C. So let's start with the first step. Always build a plan ahead. In here, what I mean is that you should first think about what's your IT assets in their location. You need to understand, speak with the different departments, what kind of the data I should protect, what type of the assets my company has, what is the importance of these assets in my organization. Should I protect everything, or maybe there is a chance to classify this data, or maybe some data are totally they shouldn't be even protected. There are some cases that we classify that, okay, this is some data that we should not put into the DR part. But you need to understand your assets, you need to classify them, and you need to analyze what type of the attack scenario could occur. I don't only want to say about the ransomware, but analyze your location, the physical location, the geographical location, the type of the business that you're running, and keep in mind, imagine or speak with some security analysis or the security, do a security audit, what could happen and how it will do your data is actually, do you have a chance to expose your data for any type of the attack that could occur. Their classification, always try to classify it, like, 1, 2, priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And based on the classification, you can start to think what type of the features and what type of the RPO, recovery time objective, and recovery point objective I should assign to the specific class of the data that I already classified. Without it, you will always get the answer, okay, how we should do it as fast as possible. But as fast, this sentence means it will cost you, because you need to go into the high availability zones. You should build some much more robust strategies for even backup and disaster recovery capabilities. It's always faster and quicker. It's always related to the money. So keep in mind and choose wisely and classify your data, and then relate to the RPOs and RTOs. Then what I always saying that if you feel, let's say we are right now on this webinar, nothing goes so bad happens, maybe some technical issues in the when we started the webinar, but you don't think at this time, you are not stressed, and you think clearly. So if something happens, you know what to do. But imagine that something real big happens, and you have tens of the hundreds of the people are a little bit panicked because they don't have the access to the data. They have a problems. You don't have your own infrastructure. There you have tons of calls, and then the tension started to, you don't feel clearly, and you need to single procedures what to do. So prepare the emergency communication strategy is the key. Maybe it's not so relevant these days, but believe me, I've spoke with many customers who said that DRP is crucial, but the way how we communicate during a disaster is even more significant to get the things properly done. And in the end, of course, you should start with the people, but also finalize the DRP with the people and the role in the disaster recovery planning. So this is the first point. The second point, what I always advise, is to keep the 3-to-1 backup rule. I know that most of the backup vendors are saying about it, but it's not only the marketing or sales slogan, but it's important that you should always have at least 3 copies, 1 production, 2 on your backup environment. You should keep always 2 destination. The best scenario is to get the local copy or the secondary site or even the DR side in a cloud. We will speak about it later, how the cloud is approaching the DR. And you should have at least one offsite. The third one, automation. And I'm not talking only about the automation from the backup perspective, but also the automation from the recovery part, or the option to that your backup platform helps you to achieve the recovery in a daily basis. Do not wait till you will lose your data. Try to simulate the disaster recovery scenarios. So if the platforms, backup recovery platforms, will allow you to do that, it's better for you. So always keep in mind that this set of functionality for the backup recovery platforms is worth to invest. The strategy, this is of course related to the first point, like start to prepare your DRP template. You can find, even if you don't have yet, there is a plenty of the even the scenarios or the DRPs templates in a network. I just put some useful links that you can use it when you will do some researches. But I love it. Hey Vince, hold off a sec. The part is that you have some questions about your annual disaster recovery test. We forget, and we will forget many times about doing a disaster recovery. We never have enough time to do it. Please find it, put in your calendar, and try to do it in a, I'm not saying even about the daily or the weekly basis, but try to do it quarterly, half a year, or even yearly, but do it. Do not just checkbox the paper that everything works fine. I believe it should works fine without any problems. My management sleeps well, but just do it. When you will start doing your disaster recovery testing, you will see that something doesn't work, because your environment is always, all the time changing. And you never know what happens during the restoration. That's why you need to have this information before the real disaster recovery. And test. The fourth point, don't wait for the disaster. Test regularly, modify and upgrade plans if your backup or recovers fails. And the fifth point, like I said, the people here, it's crucial. It's all about you, but also about the roles in your departments, the roles in your company. Keep in mind that DRP and disaster recovery is not only for IT. This should be documented. The document should be well documented in the whole company, especially for the management part that is responsible to keep the business continuity and the business running because of the money in most cases. So training, get the team, train the team, and test it and update, like I said in the fourth point. And team, we are ahead at 2021, and I know that I think most of you, some of you, are struggling, to explain why the disaster recovery budget is so important. I believe because of the changes, because of the COVID, because of the ransomware, it's easier. And I read many of the articles and spoke about it with the customer. It's a great opportunity right now. I know it sounds badly, but this is a good time in a bad times to speak and address the DR budget for the 21st. To have more money for your existing software, for existing hardware, for the cloud, for the disaster recovery as a service perspective, for example. So fight for it. Explain these 5 steps, where you are and how your management or the company is aware of what it should be done if these 5 steps. And start to talk about proper conversation about that. We cannot do it without the proper investment. We cannot do it without the proper people. We need to find the time for it. It's always related to the cost, but believe me, the data breach costs are relatively bigger, or even thousands times sometimes bigger. The IBM did some survey, Ponemon survey in 2019, showing that the data breach costs enormous amount of money, if you will put the secure data breach PONEM on IBM 2019, you will find a bunch of good statistics which you can show to your management and says, okay, it's not only about me, it's all about us as a team, as a company. I was thinking about, okay, how I should align the cloud DR and the DRaaS, because you are from the different countries, the adoption of the cloud is different, but one thing is sure, we should really consider use the cloud as a brilliant opportunity to store your archives, to store even one of your copies on the object storages like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, IBM, or the other players. Use it, and my advice is that use this chance that you have option to provide, if your platform of course has the capability to speak with the object storage, use it as a secondary copy or the third copy, because not only from the perspective that you can grow actually without any limits in an object storage, but also from the pricing point of view, from the easy of use point of view, from the option to adapt and build the disaster recovery in a cloud, like your VMs could be run on AWS or the other platforms. Use it if you haven't invested yet or considered the cloud as your maybe not primary but the secondary or the third site. Believe me, it's worth to speak more about it. From the vProtect perspective, we have a few options. We're always saying that vProtect, we have a coder for cloud like Microsoft 365 backup. We have a coder for endpoint which allows you to protect the endpoints. In the vProtect, we always saying you should have a freedom of choice where you should store the data. Remember about the 3-to-1 rule. The best scenario if you will store the data on local file system or in a cloud storage or in the third-party platforms that we are integrated like IBM Veritas or the Dell EMC. But what is important is this third point that I said is all about the automation. Automation from the backup perspective, like VM tags, regex, and the discovery point when machines or containers or the cloud instances are automatically assigned to the specific policy, where the policy is saying, okay, I know where to put your backup and where to put the backup. So auto-assign is one of the key options from the automation point of view. But it's really important for us from the set of the range of the features in the vProtect on the other my platforms is to use the recovery plans. So the option to automate the restoration. This is what I said. The most important part from the DR side is to periodically test if your backups are good from, and your VMs or the containers or the databases are actually fully open to, or you have a green light to restore it if they restore in a proper way. So all of these answers should be do it in automated way without a manual things, because you always need to struggle with time with this, what I said. And the recovery plans allows you to on-demand schedule or the on-demand restore, or schedule some weekly basis, monthly basis, or quarterly basis restoration from your containers or the VMs or the application side. Always what we've seen is because every object storage provider, which is what we started with the AWS and the Google, we have also the Azure and this OpenStack Swift, but we've seen there is a place where you should not only put the data to the object storage, but maybe use the opportunity to put the data into even the coldest space, like nearline storage, like Glacier in AWS, to lowering costs of the storing data in the end, especially when you have a long retention machines or the data that you should store. So just what I said, definitely we've seen the space using the cloud as one of the primary disaster recovery. options. Let's find my virtual machines. Let's do the example that I have some, let's say VMware on a Red Hat virtualization on the other virtualization platforms, and I would like to build a recovery plan. So I would like to periodically test the restoration. So I'm going into the virtual environments tab, recovery plans, and inside you have options to create a policy and schedules. Let's create a policy, DR in 5 simple steps. Okay, save it and create the rules. Rules means that there's a VM production. So I would like to take my production VMs and restore it weekly. What type of them virtual machines? Is of course all of that we supported in the vProtect. Let's choose one of the types. RHV. Let's use the VMware vCenter here. Let's find some virtual machines. Windows 2016. This is good. Let's do it. Next. What's the schedule? Daily, weekly. I can create a schedule in a different tab. It's already prepared, pre-configured, so I will just check the weekly recovery. What is the option to restore? Let's take the last successful or last without, regardless the status. This is a much more aggressive policy, but it gives you, and this is what we would like to hear, you are not able to restore because you are breach your SLA. You are trying to restore your backup, not from the last backup from 24 hours, but you're trying to protect your data from the 48 or 72 hours. Keep in mind about this classification that I said. If you will breach the SLA, this is a great opportunity to analyze, okay, what happens, why it's not working properly. It's breached my disaster recovery, etc. Last successful, let's use regardless. Where I would like to restore it, to the vCenter, hypervisor. Let's choose one of the hypervisors. Let's choose of the storage. 7 terabytes here should be fine. Should be okay. Prefix, so it should be DR 5 steps. So this machine will start with the DR 5 steps. Suffix web in our will start, and there will be some name, generic name in the middle. Power on after restore. Okay, save. So I create a rule. Right now, let's save the whole recovery plan. We have a recovery plan called DR in 5 simple steps. Here I can execute the plan. Let's do it. Let's run. Restore task have been queued. Let's see what's going on right now. There are some operation already. I can see on the all VM on vCenter. Yeah, the restoration just started. It's working. Let's wait. Okay. Share media. Because it will last few minutes, and I don't want to, to just hold and see what's going on, how the progress bar is moving forward. So this is a time where can I says that you can always, when you will, think about the Storware vProtect, just keep in mind that there is a brilliant opportunity to download our platform for the many of the different hypervisors for free. There's a license, free or trial commercial, but 10 VMs is with all of the features set in one place. Also, so just you need to go to the Storware EU licenses vProtect, or just put the vProtect Storware in the Google. You will find the way how to do it. Also, if you will need more information about our products, especially in the vProtect in this scenario, just play with it, or use our own official documentation that is available on a Git book. If you just put the vProtect documentation, you will find. And of course, we advise you to follow us on a different social media. We, trying to do a lot to promote our products, but also engaging the backup and recovery community. We have a Spectrum Protect group on the IBM, on the LinkedIn. We are quite active on the YouTube, and we are glad that you founded us and spent the time like this 35-40 minutes to hear about what we have to say, not only from the product point of view, but also how to properly think about the DRP in the 2021. And believe me, this is a really crucial part. Even if you will not use the Storware, but you will take some advices, or read carefully, or have some statement that, okay, I should do this. Believe me, I will work. I will feel fully compelled, and do not feel pressure that the only good way to do the DRPs is to think about Storware. You have plenty of the options, but I just wanted to emphasize what is the vProtect role in the modernized workloads, data protection, like containers, VMs, or cloud, or application itself. You can find many useful links here. This is what I did in last days when I prepared the presentation. There are some templates, even the MIT. This is actually from the 1994 material, working with IBM. But honestly, even after 26 years, the procedures are quite the same. The way how to build the structured DRP, it's not so sophisticated. It's, the important part is, even if you will take the oldest template, the key is to just fill this out and start to working with it and speak with the others inside the company. Okay, team, let me double check what happened. The restoration is still running. I took some big machine, but you need to believe me by heart that everything will goes into the right direction. Let's take the QA session. If you have any question, do not hesitate to ask on a chat. I hope you enjoyed the ride with the Storware team. My name was Paweł Mączka. I'm CTO and VP at Storware, and I was thrilled to speak with you again on a Storware webinar to show the backup monster. I've seen the small ones. Let's show Marta again the small backup monster in the end. Yeah, they are really cute. So follow us and think and speak with your management. And I keep fingers crossed that every of you, or each company that's watching this webinar and see this material, will redesign or rethink the way how the DRPs and the disaster recovery should go into which direction. So have a good day, stay safe, and let's find the. Do you have any question? I don't see. Like I said, that was a pleasure to have you here on this webinar. See you on one of the next one. Just follow us, you will see what next happen. Have a great day, stay safe, stay in touch.